A data breach of HealthEC has impacted over 4.5 million patients. So the breach actually occurred back in July, but back then they said, oh, about 112,000 patient records got out. Well, just recently that has been updated. So there's actually this really cool website. Really cool. I think it's the first time you're ever going to hear me say that the Department of Health and Human Services is a really cool website, but they do. They have a website, which we're going to link here, that shows all of the healthcare specific breaches that have taken place. So that's pretty crazy, right? So you can look at them all. And here, I grabbed a snapshot of all of them that took place just in December of last year. Check this out. It's huge. You're not even able to read it because it's so much. It's a ton. So you can actively watch that if you're hyper paranoid about your healthcare information being taken, because these guys at HealthEC, they lost 4.5 million records. And it wasn't just like, oh, name and email. It was name, address, date of birth, social security number. They got medical records, health insurance, billing information, 4.5 million records. Now, what's interesting is that these guys aren't healthcare providers. They are a service provider for healthcare services. And this is where we're seeing a lot of problems, right? Is the hospitals, the insurance companies, all these guys, they have crazy hardcore lockdown infrastructure, and they're really not too susceptible to these breaches. What's happening is they're leveraging these third-party people saying, hey, we want you to be our customer service. We want you to do fraud prevention. We want you to do customer interaction for sales or whatever. So when they're outsourcing this stuff, they also have to give them a lot of these patients' information. And under HIPAA laws, there's all kinds of rules and regulations that prohibit them from sending too much stuff depending on who needs it or not. But if these guys have the right to know and they have all that information, well, now they are susceptible. Now, when the bigger companies like the insurance companies, all this kind of stuff, when they're saying, hey, do we use this third party? Because the system, they definitely go through checks and balances, right? They're going to see like, hey, are these guys actually have defendable networks? Do they have segregated cloud systems for our data so if they get hacked, that everything doesn't get lost like here? So most companies do go through these types of due diligence, but not to the fullest degree, right? Like you really don't know their network infrastructure and network security, and they're probably not going to tell you either to that level. Unless if you're a 600-pound gorilla, you can pretty much demand whatever you want, and they'll show you if they really want your business. But most of the time, it's part of the security to not release what your security is. So you kind of got that double-edged sword. But this is happening a lot, like I'm saying, because people are just outsourcing to anyone because they're like, look, I don't want to do it. I don't want the headache. I don't want the risk, because then it's not my head. Like here, it's not, I don't know who their clients are, so I shouldn't name any health providers, but I'm not, I'm the big insurance company. It wasn't me. It was HealthEC that lost the information. So it's them. It's not my stock price that's going to take a hit, but it does, right? I mean, look at MGM hack. MGM was in the news all over the place for their hack, and it wasn't MGM's fault. Really, it was that outsourced customer support system. So I think really what we need is a wake-up call everywhere to people to actually do real due diligence on security, infrastructure, and the handling of PII, especially when you got social security numbers and people's medical records. All of this stuff should be done in a massive due diligence of these third-party systems before any data gets put to them. Just saying, oh, well, we haven't contracted or anywhere, they're liable, we're not. It's like, okay, technically, sure, but your brand is going to take a hit, which means your stock's going to take a hit, and your stockholders don't give a shit. So I really strongly recommend a lot more due diligence happening from the actual owners of the data site. I think that is probably the most important thing that I can recommend.